ever feel like there's such an endless list of things that you need to do, could do, should do, wish you could do, that it just is overwhelming? You don't know where to start, and you don't know how to manage your time, and so you think, well, if I get a good planner, that's going to solve my problem. Only it doesn't. And things just keep piling up, and you just feel like you're going, I don't know. I just don't know. Well, me too. That's how it's been for me for a long time. And we're going to talk about it because I have found something that I believe is going to solve my problem if I could just work this. And I can't wait to share it with you. While we talk, I'm going to show you the project I was working on when this came to me, which was working on my office. So you'll see me decluttering it and cleaning it and figuring out what to do. And there is a turning point in this story, which led me to find the solution. We're going to talk about this book, Essentialism, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less by Greg McKeown. Now, when you look at that, you might think, oh, well, he's just talking about how to have less. It goes with decluttering. And while he does talk about decluttering in terms of your clothes or whatever, and he uses that discussion as like an object lesson, that is not what the book is actually about. I'll give you a brief backstory on this office. So I used to own an e-commerce website, and I ran it from home, and I ran it out of this office, which was filled with custom cabinets, and it cost around $10,000 to do that in 2009. After I sold that business, our circumstances in our family changed to where I needed to have that room as a bedroom. We had to take out some of the cabinets so we could put a bed in there. And then my son was in that room for a number of years. Things changed so that he could have a bedroom again. So I got control of the office. I hadn't really been going in the office much while he was occupying it. You know, he's an adult and I'm not going to go in and bother him. When I got control of it, I saw that there was so much damage in there to the cabinets and the walls and you name it, which he fully admits. It was getting really hard use during that time. And so in order for me to use that office as it was again, I was going to have to figure out what I was going to do with those cabinets, particularly the base cabinets. Would I sand them and restain them? Would I paint them? And then there was the walls. There was so much damage to the walls. And then we had holes in the floor where the cabinets used to be, and then you get the point. It was really something. So there was so much to do in my life with taking care of the home and the family, and I had 10 grandkids, and then I had this problem with the office, and there's so much maintenance in the house and the yard and blah, 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 blah. It just, a lot. And that office happens to be right where everyone can see it. So you can come in our front door, look to the left, and there's the office. And if we haven't remembered to shut the door, everyone can see this really sketchy room. So I have worried and worried and worried about it. This day that we're watching, I decided I'm just going to go in and I'm going to start cleaning the cabinets, and I'll move some of the books around. My husband had been using that as kind of a nursery, and he had all these plants in there. Just thought, I'm just going to get going, which is the way you normally do. Well, I was sort of doing okay, and then I got over to the tall bookcases that had all of my family history and photo albums and years worth of journals, and I just hit the wall. I could not decide what to do. It felt so overwhelming, and I just had to stop. Well, I had noticed that my brain was feeling really, really tired during this, unusually tired, where I couldn't even sit and talk to the camera like I'm talking to you now. I thought, what is going on? And then I put it together that I had fallen down 8 feet of stairs a few weeks before that. And at the time I was so focused on I'd hurt my neck, I'd hurt my ribs, I'd broken a finger, that I hadn't noticed that at the same time I started having trouble thinking. And my brain was so foggy, I could not think. And I would think, I just need a good night's sleep and tomorrow will be better. Only the next day wasn't better. And then I went, okay, I have a concussion. I recognize this. I've had one before. I have a concussion. So I just knew I have to take a break from YouTube because I literally could not think of what to do. I couldn't talk like I can talk now. And then at the same time, I had pre-cancer taken off of my nose, and I had some other things burned off, and I just looked really bad for a couple weeks. There was no way I would be on the camera looking like that. Anyway, during that forced time off, I realized, wait a minute, am overwhelmed with this big laundry list of what I need to do, and I can't handle this. And then I realized it was so much more. It was that office. That office is just weighing on me. And there were so many tasks to do, and so much to do, and so much money to spend on it. And it was going to take so much time. And how was I going to handle it? One day, the picture of this book, this Essentialism which is The Disciplined Pursuit of Less by Greg McKeown, popped into my mind, and it just came to me. I guess it's a God thing. You need to read that book again. And I hadn't really gotten into it when I first owned it, because you see, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less, if you are into decluttering, your mind will go right to, well, he's talking about decluttering things. And there are some minimalists that do use this book in that way, but Greg uses that as an object lesson. He compares the main point of the book, which is doing less with your time, to what happens when you have a closet that's too full. You have to choose what's there. You have to get rid of things and make space. So if you think about that in terms of your life, of your time, then it kind of opens up what he means by the disciplined pursuit of less. So on the back of his book, he says, have you ever felt stretched too thin? Have you felt overworked and utilized at the same time? Are you often busy but not productive? Do you feel that your time is constantly being hijacked by other people? If you answered yes, the way out is to be an essentialist. Essentialism isn't about getting more done in less time. It's about getting only the right things done. Only once we discern which is absolutely essential and eliminate everything else can we make our highest possible contribution towards the things that truly matter. It forces us to make decisions. So he says the core of an essentialist is that you have individual choice. We choose how we fill up our time and our energy. An essentialist recognizes that almost everything is noise, and very few things are exceptionally valuable. Essentialist recognizes that trade-offs are a real thing. We can't have it all, and we can't do it all. There is this saying that you hear all the time that you can do everything in your life, just not at the same time. Well, that is a complete lie, because we can't. But our problem is thinking that we can, or else doing what I have historically done. As I read through this book, I felt really called out on a few things. And one is doing too much when it's not necessary. My mother used to say to me, why is it that you can't ever do anything halfway? And I was like, I just can't, Mom. And so I'd always do too much. I'd make the PowerPoint too big because I had done too much research. I'd gone way past where it was necessary. Well, it did get me A's and A pluses in college, but in real life, it was causing me so much problem. When I was a teacher, I spent too much time preparing, wanting to get it to some level that was just unnecessary. When I'm editing, spending too much time worrying about teeny little things that won't matter at all and won't matter to you one bit, because I'm trying to achieve some level of perfectionism, or I don't know what it is. So I felt really called out on that. Another thing that I felt really called out on is that I was letting what other people think, or what I imagine, that's really it, what I imagine other people are thinking, control what I'm doing and adding extra pressure on me, and then I would do way too much. You guys, those of you who watch me or have watched me for a while, feel like you know me, because you have this advantage where you hear me talking and everything, but I don't know you. I have gotten to know a few of you when you make consistent comments, so I recognize your names, I kind of recognize how you speak, and I really appreciate it, but I really don't know you. I haven't sat down in a room with you and had discussions about life and gone to lunch with you. You see what I mean? I really don't know you in that way, and yet I will let what I think that you think or may be thinking affect how I'm feeling and affect what I do, what I choose to do, and then I'll end up doing way too much when you just probably wouldn't care one bit. And it's the same with thinking that your family wants this and they don't really need it, or thinking your boss wants you to do all this and your boss might not even care. So it's this putting this pressure on yourself about what you think other people are wanting. We accidentally are trying to fill everything in based on what other people are thinking, or we think other people are thinking, and it causes us to have so much stress. Don't know you to know you well enough to know what you really think. But yet I'll sit there and worry about it. And then I'll end up doing the wrong things or too much of something and take time away from what's really important. And then you stress about, oh, people aren't subscribing, or hey, people are subscribing to me. It's great either way, because people that unsubscribe have decided, yeah, this is not for me. And people who subscribe go, I'm interested in that. I want to see more of that. I don't have any in-depth knowledge about why that's happening. All I can do is just make a video and try to present something that I find interesting, and hope the people who will find that same thing interesting will come along and watch it. I have let that just absolutely clutter my mind and what I've been doing. And I was just really called out on this, because he says, and it's so true, we don't want to let someone down. We're worried about damaging the relationship. Like, if I don't get these videos right, or if I offend you some way, then I damage the relationship, which really doesn't exist, because I don't know you, you know me, but I don't know you. And so this distracts us from the reality that we can say no to something and regret it for a few minutes, or we can say yes to something and then we regret it for days, years, or months. Something else that he talks about is being invested in things. They call it sunk investment. So just think about my office now. Since I spent so much money on it, I had a lot of emotional feelings about that office, good or bad. It's really hard to give up on something that we've spent money on or effort on, because we don't want to waste things. Particularly if you're in my generation, then our parents and grandparents went through the Depression. And so they hung on to things and were really alert to what was wasteful. And so my grandmother used to talk about, well, this is wasteful, and these people are wasteful, and this is wasteful. And my husband went through the same thing. And so we're so aware of waste, which then leads to you being a clutterer, you keeping everything, because you are so thoroughly schooled on you must keep everything and use everything. But of course, our grandparents didn't have the amount of things that we have. So there I am with that office, and I've spent all that money on it, and that was sunk cost. And so I felt obligated to spend more money to bring it back into shape. But the problem was, and this is what I realized during my forced, I have to take some time off, I thought, well, it's going to take so much effort. I'm going to have to buy new countertops, and there's a lot of money in here to fix this back up. And do I really want to do that? One day I sat and imagined what it would be like to sit in that office and work out of there, edit videos, and there wasn't any really good place to sit and read. Could I make that happen? What would it be like to do crafts in there? And all the tension that I felt the last couple of years that I owned that business just came rushing back to me. And that room was just so squished and dark, and I realized, no, I don't want that. I am going to walk away from this. And I don't know if I'd been able to do that or come to that conclusion in such a firm way without this book. He says what you need to do is trying to stop forcing a fit. And by thinking that I need to get that room back in shape by doing all these things, I was essentially trying to force a fit. Well, I'm somehow going to turn that into a reading room. Well, I'm somehow going to do this. I'm somehow going to make this feel warm and cozy. And I'm going to do all these things to make that happen. But no matter what I would have done, I would not have been able to make that room fit what I really want it to be. And we do that in all kinds of ways with all kinds of things that we do. We just think, I'm going to do this. I'm going to power on. I'm going to make it work. Then we get ourselves all cluttered in our brain and our time and everything so cluttered up with, we're going to make this work. And this is called status quo bias. So because we have been in this condition for so long and we're so used to the status quo, it's really hard for people to break out. Well, someone who's essentialist will take time to really stop and think, is this important to me? Is this really valuable to me? If I had to really spend a lot of money to buy this thing again, would I buy this again? And if it's not a 90 or 100, because he tells you to judge things between 0 and 100, is this a 65% item? Is this a 70% activity? Would you sacrifice to do that activity? If the answer is no, it's not in the 90 or 100 percentile, that A range, then you shouldn't be doing it. You shouldn't be buying it. As a teacher, that kind of resounds with me because of the grading scale, and I'm so aware. And so I'm like, well, maybe an 80%, and I don't know, but a 90 to 100%, I can see why Greg says if the answer isn't a definite yes, 90 or 100, then the answer is no. Then you'll know it's not valuable to you. It's not really valuable to you. Maybe you're just in this status quo bias thinking and feeling, and you're having a hard time letting it go because of the sunk cost of your time and your money, and maybe it's just time to do what I said. I'm gonna let this go. And so what did I do? I put those cabinets up for sale for free on Facebook. And whoa, boy, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people who want free cabinets, particularly when they're solid wood. I got someone to come in. I'm showing you. These guys came in. One is going to put them in the basement, and the other one used to install cabinets. So they took them down and took them away. And man, I felt like the biggest load was lifting off of me. I no longer had to deal with that problem that has been bugging me for at least a decade that I hadn't been able to face. I don't have to do those things. I can do what I want to do in there. I can do things that are enjoyable. I can do things that are valuable to me, not what I think other people will expect me to do or what not being wasteful would require me to do. So he talks about zero-based time budgeting, which zero-based accounting is where you start at zero. Well, if you do your time scheduling or your day, you're going to get up every day and you're starting at zero. You're not carrying the list that you had yesterday over. You're just starting with, here's a new day. What am I going to do today? What is value for me to do? And what is trivia? I just don't want to be involved in trivia today. So what is important to me? Well, important to me is my relationship with God, my relationship with my family, and trying to take better care of my health so that I can enjoy my life better. And then everything else is kind of extra, really. Then I think, well, my home is valuable to me. It is valuable to me. So I'm going to take care of my home. That feels good. So you judge like that. And when you are creating this small list of things that you are going to do that are valuable to you, you're going to build in buffer. You should figure that anything you're going to do is going to take 50% longer than you thought it was. And if you have a bigger project like that room, obviously I'm not going to do that in one day. I am not going to think I can get that done in 2 weeks. I'm going to build in buffer because I need to. I have a chronic illness. I never know from day to day how I'm going to feel. I don't know in the morning that I'm going to feel as good as I did right then in the afternoon. I just don't know. It's an unknown. So if I am constantly putting unrealistic expectations on how quickly I can get something done, then I'm just disappointed and feel bad about myself because I am trying to do too much in too little of a time. A great deal of what I'm doing is just trivial nonsense. So instead, if I get up in the morning and I think, what's really valuable to me today? I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do this in a slower pace, and I'm going to create buffer. He talks about having a lower and upper range of expectations. So let's say it's really valuable to write a book. And instead of thinking, well, I'm going to write 3 pages every day, which as a writer, someone who writes will know that's can be a lot. And then you try to keep that up every day. And then if you can't, then you miss a day and then you think, well, do I need to make this up or what do I need to do about this? Instead, he says, do a reasonable lower limit. Like, I'm going to write 5 sentences. That's my minimum. Every day I'm going to write 5 sentences. But I'm going to do no more than X amount. And that top limit should be less than wears you out. Because if you get worn out, you're not likely to want to do it the next day. So you should have plenty of space, plenty of buffer, and you should try to do it in a way where you're getting small wins and as easy as you can do it. Is there an easier way to do this? And then you'll start realizing, wow, I've really been complicating things. And then when you're designing your routines, cut out all of the options, these extra options. We should also watch out for those things we're doing just because we're afraid of missing out. You know, FOMO, being an essentialist means that you're really going to get down to what's essential in your life. Greg also talks about multitasking. We have talked here on this channel about how multitasking can really be bad for your brain, which is true. But Greg says it's not multitasking per se that is dangerous and that we can't really do. It's multi-focusing, because you can only focus on one thing at a time. So therefore you need to make a decision about where is your focus is going to be. What is essential? He says, when faced with so many tasks and obligations that you can't figure out which to tackle first, stop. Take a breath, get present in the moment, and ask yourself what is most important this very second, not what's most important tomorrow or even an hour from now. If you're not sure, make a list of everything vying for your attention right at that moment and cross off anything that's not important right now, and then only do what's essential. So you got to choose carefully what you're going to do and make space to do it. If you can do that, you will have decluttered your life, and I promise you, you are going to feel better about what you're doing with your time. Well, now YouTube is really good at figuring out what video you'd be interested in next, and I'm going to let YouTube show you, because YouTube knows you better than I do. And I'll see you next time. Bye.